that the religious communities across the board understand that they're all on trial here, that any one of us can be having set in our pews confidential informants that are setting us up. The paper calls it a sting. There's a fine line between a sting and a setup. I would suggest to you that this may have been just that. And I don't know what causes people to shoot one person 20 times. Fear, anger, incompetence, criminality. Is the wrong person being convicted here? I think maybe so. And you are morally responsible for helping us find the truth.
Thank you. These microphones. Hey, instead of, let's move to the microphones, maybe we should play musical chairs for a moment. What do you think?
Well, yeah. I just have really one question, and it just goes back to what Attorney Mashley said about the excessive force, that everybody in the media should ask themselves is why, after a 3-year investigation, a very intense 3-year investigation with informants, why you had nothing that came out of that 3-year investigation? No proof of any such type of terrorist activity, no proof of anyone being able to overthrow the government or anything like that. Why, after 3 years, you bring out all of this force that Attorney Masri named to get this man and to kill him? That's the question I think that the media should ask, is why that? It doesn't make sense to anyone that the most you could come up with is some television, stolen televisions that the FBI supplied.
Yes.
So why, after 3 years, they supply stolen television sets to a group of people that had a small, poor mosque, and set them up with all this force, SWAT teams and things of that nature, to kill him? I think the media should ask that question and dive into it, not only as reporters, but as human beings.
Thank you very much, Imam. Pastor Bullock, please.
Yes, just really wanted to say very briefly that this case for us is emblematic of, as Ron Scott said, the branding of the Muslim community and African American Muslims. And this is a part of a larger national narrative. I mean, we cannot sit here and act like what's going on in Detroit is not a part of a larger story where, again, our President Barack Obama, somehow being branded, this branding of Muslim in America. And we must be vigilant and not only stand with the family of Imam Luqman, but we must be vigilant and fight against a very negative branding. What does this word Muslim mean in America? We have to fight and say, no, Muslims are our brothers and our sisters. African American Muslims and African American Islamic faith leaders are our brothers and our sisters, and we cannot allow for a certain segment of the media just to take words, as they have done, other words, in fact, take words and hold them hostage and use them as cold words to spread malice and hate. Additionally, we have concerns. When President Obama ran for office, there was also a branding of his pastor, Pastor Jeremiah Wright. They were taking tapes of his sermons and trying to brand Jeremiah Wright as a hate monger, right? And there were some who stood with Reverend Wright, but now we can see after the election how that tactic is a tactic that is being used to brand faith leaders, whether they be Islamic, whether they be Christian, in the African American community or otherwise, as hate mongers. We are very concerned about how our faith leaders are being branded and how that branding is being used, again, to marginalize, to alienate, to destroy, to pull down. The community has a life of its own, so to speak. We understand who our leaders are and how they communicate with us and how they represent us and how we fight on a grassroots level for self-determination and for self-reliance. And so this case has larger implication for how forces and powers can use a governmental influence to brand and to target, to steer and to cluster and to identify serious and sincere faith leaders who fight for their communities every day as warmongers and haters and terrorists. This is very scary. This is very scary. As a pastor, as a preacher, this frightens us. And so we stand, not just with the family of Imam Luqman, not just with our Muslim brothers and sisters, but we stand with all faith leaders who are in a tradition of social justice. Ron Scott mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, that's kind of the tradition we're in. And we saw how that ended. Fred Hampton. I mean, we kind of in that tradition, so to speak. We saw how that ended. We stand with all leaders, community activists and faith leaders who are in the tradition of calling truth to power. If we stand for justice, do we then stand in the line of the firing squad as well? This is the question.
Thank you. Pastor Williams.
The issue of the imam, we are deeply concerned, and we're mostly concerned about the fact that constitutional rights have been aborted. I don't think we all would deny, at least on this panel, that FBI agents have had a track record of aborting our constitutional rights. We are due process. And I think it's important to realize that the issue that happened with the imam is that his trial was tried at the site rather than in the courtroom. And so I think most importantly, our constitutional rights have been challenged. Imam's constitutional rights have been challenged. His family's constitutional rights have been challenged. And so we need and we look to the president and to Eric Holder to step in and to affirm the constitutional rights that we have in terms of making sure that there is a real process, not a gloss over process that they have given the family and they have given the community, but a real independent process of a committee that will look at both sides, the folks who were shooting and the folks who were being shot at. A dog can't bark with a bone in his mouth, so I don't know how we could expect the FBI, who work for the FBI, to come up with a process that would be fair and that would not put their own jobs in jeopardy. Exactly. So we stand here today with the family for those reasons, and we are urging the community to wake up and to really open their eyes and not look at the fact that this brother's wearing a turban, not look at the fact that this brother may have had a prison background, but look at the fact that this brother is a citizen of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, please let me come. Before Chuck speaks, I'd like to make a request from the media. If you have to cut out my quotes, that's fine. I prefer for you to quote one of these Christian leaders because many of the media stories have painted that only the Muslims are the ones who are raising sand about this case. And I'm showing you some of the most influential and active Christian pastors right here in Metro Detroit. And this needs to be shown that this isn't just a Muslim only or even an African American only issue. So I just make that comment for the media. Go ahead, Chuck, please.
My name is Chuck Orpahusky. I'm co-director of the Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. And within our coalition, we recognize that a fair and just legal system and law enforcement system isn't only part of our American tradition, but is part of many of our religious and spiritual traditions. And just one example is the biblical command that thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. It's part of our faith tradition and part of our American civic tradition. And when the DOJ had their opportunity to investigate this, shooting, they had the opportunity to provide a full, fair, and independent investigation to help us live up to those ideals. There are significant gaps